In terms of the mission plan now, you can see we've dived down at 200 meters of water. We've been to this altitude in Loch Ness.
Harbor a secretive creature. A new expedition hopes to solve the mystery of the Loch Ness monster once and for all.
For centuries, Loch Ness has guarded a mystery that never disappeared. A creature buried in old legends, eyewitness claims, and shadowy glimpses beneath Scotland's dark waters. But this time, the story moved beyond myth. AI-powered scans and advanced underwater technology captured something that stunned researchers, a presence that moved, reacted, and seemed aware of being watched. Was it proof of a hidden world beneath the lake, or the beginning of a new chapter in natural history? One thing is certain: Loch Ness has blurred the line between science and legend like never before. The unseen signal. In the spring of 2025, a team of scientists returned to Loch Ness, armed with the most advanced sonar technology and underwater drones ever used in the region. Their mission was to capture a detailed scientific picture of the loch's elusive ecosystem, but what they discovered defied all expectations. At precisely 6:42 a.m., sonar picked up a massive object nearly 30 feet long, moving through the deep waters. Not a random drift, but something purposeful, gliding with smooth, serpentine motions. Unlike previous fleeting sonar contacts, this signal was solid and consistent, tracked from multiple angles for nearly 3 minutes. Immediately, submersible drones were launched to follow the object, capturing blurry outlines hinting at a large figure with subtle curves and what appeared to be a fin or paddle. Water in Loch Ness is notoriously dark and filled with silt, making clear visual confirmation difficult. But the footage showed movement too deliberate to be mistaken for debris or a school of fish. The creature didn't behave like any known species. It maneuvered with a fluidity and speed unusual for the loch's inhabitants. Shortly after, thermal imaging revealed a heat signature that stood out against the loch's cold depths. The warmth was steady and spread over a shape resembling a vertebrate, indicating a warm-blooded organism rather than a cold aquatic reptile or inanimate object. The thermal outline matched the sonar coordinates perfectly, giving researchers confidence that what they were tracking was alive and responsive. This wasn't a glitch or a trick of light. It was a living, moving being aware of its surroundings and possibly aware it was being observed. The implications rocked the team. Here, harnessing AI-powered sonar and thermal cameras, science had caught what for centuries had only been whispered in myth. Yet, the identity of this creature remained hidden beneath the shadows of the impossible. Environmental DNA samples gathered from the loch right after the encounter sort of tacked on yet another layer, like the mystery wasn't already slippery enough. Labs across the UK and Europe processed the water samples, and they came back with genetic material from an aquatic vertebrate that honestly is unknown to science. The DNA signals did not line up with any fish, eel, or other water dweller listed as living in or around Loch Ness. Scientists have been wrestling with the notion that, after centuries of lore and, well, skepticism, this could be the first real hard evidence of a species that's been hidden in the loch's depths for a very long time. The discovery pushed against everything. It felt like a moment where myth turned into possible biology, and then experts had to rethink the assumptions they'd held for ages. No official classification has been made yet, but the unknown DNA has still stirred equal parts hope and anxiety that something extraordinary may really be down there, beyond the surface. As the word circulated in a quieter way among researchers, excitement seemed to buzz across the Highlands. Local stories had always sort of nodded toward something unsettling or stirring, moving under those waters. What science had just documented echoed older murmurs passed down, generation to generation. Tales about a creature that wasn't just imagined, but undeniable to the people who live by the loch. This new proof would soon kick off a wider conversation. But to understand how the legend seemed to crack and fade through time, we need to go back to the beginning, to when mythology and history first started tangling. Centuries ago, the ancient origins carry more than mythos. They carry the soul of a story that refuses to be forgotten. Ancient origins of the legend. Long before satellites and sonar, the mystery of Loch Ness began with stories woven into the fabric of early medieval chronicles. One of the earliest accounts comes from the year 565 AD, when the Irish monk St. Columba reportedly confronted a fierce water beast in the river Ness. According to these chronicles, the creature had slain a man and was about to attack again, only to be commanded to retreat by Columba in the name of God. This narrative, preserved through monastic writings, blurs history and legend, and has been debated as either a spiritual metaphor or perhaps the first historical reference to the famous creature. These early tales did not stand alone, but coexisted alongside the rich folklore of the Scottish Highlands, where lake spirits and water demons featured prominently. Among them were the Kelpies, shape-shifting entities said to lure travelers into the depths. Often described with horse-like features and glowing eyes, Kelpies were both feared and respected by local communities, symbolizing the dangers hidden beneath the calm of mysterious waters. Many now believe these ancient stories grew from real sightings or encounters unknown to outsiders, an oral tradition passed down to warn, explain, or respect the unknown lurking below. The melding of folklore and reality created a cultural tapestry that framed the loch as a place of awe and fear, where visibility faded, but presence remained palpable. Oral storytelling was sort of the main container for these accounts, layering fear, respect, and wonder as the centuries went on. With each retelling, things would get a new symbolic angle, but the core description stayed basically the same: a massive, silent presence, seldom seen and hard to nail down, gliding through the waters with stealth and a size that just doesn't fit any natural explanation. Not really. Instead of only trying to prove the creature was real, those stories taught people to be careful and reverent. They slipped that kind of wisdom into communities, respect for the tricky, mysterious waters, and for the secrets they keep tucked away. Because of that cultural attitude, the loch wasn't viewed just as a place. It became more like a living story, with its own rules and its own mood. Geography helped the legend grow, too. Loch Ness runs about 23 miles and sinks to depths nearing 800 feet. A dark, shadowy water body hemmed in by misty hills and steep mountains. It's isolated enough, and the black, silty depths are protective, so even the most determined observers have a hard time catching anything solid. For ages, the loch kept acting like a canvas where myth and nature could sit side by side. It wasn't, at least not early on, worn down by modern development. That backdrop gave the perfect stage for a mystery to start up and then endure, a thing that would grab people's imaginations across generations again and again. In those older tales, with warnings and half-whispered legends, a real connection formed between folks and the unexplained depths of Loch Ness. The creature was never just a monster, more like a symbol, a guardian of mystery wrapped in mists and time, and the kind of quiet that makes you listen. To fully grasp how Loch Ness evolved from legend to global obsession, we must see how the tale transformed in the 20th century when folklore found the eyes of the world. Myth meets reality in the Highlands. The Scottish Highlands have long been a place where nature and mythology intertwine, creating a landscape thick with stories that shape local identity. Among these tales are those of the eerie lake spirits called Kelpies, said to roam the water's edge, seducing travelers into watery graves with their hauntingly beautiful guises. Their equine features and shimmering eyes aren't just fanciful. They represent the fears and mysteries of the region's lochs, where depths conceal unknown dangers. Though rooted in folklore, Kelpie stories often mirror the descriptions encountered in reported Nessie sightings: shapes gliding beneath the surface, illuminated eyes in the fog, and the sensation that something watches silently. Such overlapping imagery reveals how closely intertwined mythology is with the natural phenomena experienced by those living near the loch. Over time, these legends evolved alongside shifts in culture and technology, but always maintained a core truth: the water hides something powerful and elusive. Villagers' oral histories emphasized respect, teaching that the unknown lurking below was never meant to be fully revealed, urging caution around the loch's dark waters. The Highlands' geography, with its misty hills, shadowed valleys, and deep, cold lochs, fuels a potent atmosphere for mystery. The interplay of light and fog, the silent stretch of water, and the sense of isolation all create a perfect canvas for stories that blur lines between the visible and invisible. Local communities lived with these stories not as fanciful tales, but as part of their shared experience. The legends served as cultural glue, connecting generations through common respect for the natural world and caution toward its secrets. As these oral traditions spread beyond the highlands, the cultural narratives expanded and combined with external fascination, transforming from localized folklore into a subject of international intrigue. Yet, the roots remained deeply Scottish, entwined with the land and the people who lived by the loch. This fusion of myth and reality shaped how the world viewed Loch Ness for decades, creating powerful images and expectations before the arrival of modern technology and media. These stories built a foundation that modern science and exploration would struggle to unravel or confirm, setting the stage for a clash between ancient belief and factual investigation. As the mystery entered the 20th century, that tension intensified, fueled by developments both natural and human-made, drawing the eyes of the global public to the dark waters of Loch Ness. The past and present would collide, revealing layers of fascination and doubt that have defined the Loch Ness story ever since. Rise of modern obsession. The 1930s marked a pivotal moment when the Loch Ness legend transitioned from whispered folklore to a global phenomenon. That decade saw significant changes around the loch itself, as infrastructure projects like the Caledonian Canal and the hydroelectric dam at Fort Augustus began altering the water flow and environment. These developments coincided with a noticeable increase in reports of strange disturbances, accounts of a large creature surfacing briefly before slipping beneath the depths. Whether stirred by construction or simply heightened attention, the loch suddenly became the center of a mystery that captured worldwide interest. Local newspapers eagerly documented encounters, lending a veneer of credibility to the stories and fueling public fascination. For communities near the loch, these reports transformed daily life. Tourism grew rapidly, and towns like Drumnadrochit sprang up almost overnight, bustling with visitors hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creature. The legend was no longer confined to local storytelling. It had become a powerful cultural and economic force. This surge in interest set the stage for one of the most iconic moments in cryptid history, the 1934 surgeon's photograph. Captured by London physician Robert Kenneth Wilson, the grainy black and white image appeared to show a long neck rising from the loch's surface. It was quickly hailed as the definitive proof of Nessie's existence and splashed across newspapers globally, cementing the creature's place in popular imagination. Though it was later exposed as an elaborate hoax involving a toy submarine, the photograph's impact was irreversible. It planted a permanent image of Nessie in the public mind, fueling decades of curiosity and speculation. Even subsequent debunking efforts could not erase the hold this myth had over the world's imagination. After the photo came out, Loch Ness kind of went global. Lots of visitors showing up from everywhere, all hoping to see the legendary creature for themselves, right there.
Loch Ness is not huge on a world scale, but it is in terms of depth, and it was that aspect which attracted me. And so the search in the 70s moved underwater.
The tourism industry took off, from guided boat rides to little souvenir stalls, and it all seemed to grab the cultural and commercial payoff of the myth. And then, this kept feeding itself. More people arrived, so more sightings and stories followed, and somehow the legend just kept gaining steam. Nessie's push forward was not only from travelers. Early media also really backed it up, like documentary filmmakers and even radio broadcasts that spread the loch's tales to audiences far beyond the local area. Books, too, and classrooms across the planet leaned into the story, and little by little, Nessie became this emblem of the unexplained, less about yes, no factual belief, and more about awe, wonder, and that lingering mystery. In the end, it wasn't just about one place anymore. The creature turned into a shared cultural icon, sort of surpassing its original roots to represent the pull of what you can't quite name. Even with all that excitement, both hard skeptics and true believers understood that not every reported encounter could be shrugged off as pure sensationalism or a prank or a hoax. The sheer number of accounts, plus the way they kept sounding similar, implied that something might be moving under the water, though whatever it was stayed hard to pin down. The legend worked because it clicked with people culturally, not just because it offered proof. This period of intense attention kind of raised awareness beyond only Loch Ness. sort of shining a light on the human desire to believe and the persistent draw of the mysterious. It turned a regional story into a full-on phenomenon that tested, in a way, the line between folklore and science, setting the tone for the more rigorous investigations that would come later. As the world's gaze locked in firmly on Loch Ness, the stage was set for a century-long back and forth between myth and inquiry, where sightings, science, and storytelling collided, trying to find answers. The growth of modern fascination brought not only tourists and headlines, but also a new wave of eyewitness testimony that demanded serious consideration. Eyewitness accounts and patterns. The accounts of Nessie sightings over the past century have come from a surprisingly diverse and credible group of witnesses. Scientists, police officers, boat captains, and even military personnel have publicly described encounters that defy easy explanation. Beginning as early as the 1930s, trained observers consistently reported seeing a large dark shape undulating just beneath the water's surface, a long serpentine neck rising above, and smooth yet sudden movements suggestive of a massive, graceful creature. This steady flow of reported encounters pushes beyond folklore into the realm of repeated experiential phenomena. When viewed together, these accounts reveal remarkable consistencies. A creature with a long neck, multiple humps breaking the waterline, and an almost silent, gliding motion that distinguishes it from known aquatic animals. Such regularity across different decades and observers lends weight to their testimonies. Unlike erratic splashing typical of fish or predictable mechanical wakes, these witnesses describe movement that is both fluid and rapid, sometimes covering impressive distances before vanishing without a trace. This pattern recurs so frequently that the imagery has become core to the visual vocabulary surrounding Loch Ness. Many later sightings mirror these details with impressive fidelity, reinforcing their credibility. An intriguing aspect of these accounts is their timing. Most reported sightings occur in low-light conditions, either early morning or twilight, when the water's surface is glassy and the air is calm. These conditions reduce visibility disturbances, allowing for brief, clear glimpses that might otherwise be missed. Researchers theorize that the creature could be most active during these quiet hours, or that environmental factors simply make detection easier. Despite decades of skepticism and numerous attempts to explain away sightings as misidentified logs, waves, or optical illusions, the consistent confidence of eyewitnesses stands out. Their voices convey sincere conviction, not fantasy, and they resist dismissal as unreliable or overly imaginative. Instead, they have become unlikely guardians of a shared cultural mystery, attesting to its enduring presence. The volume and quality of these reports challenge the easy labels of hoax or error. When so many trained and trustworthy individuals describe similar phenomena, the likelihood of a genuine unknown presence increases significantly. This strong testimonial foundation has kept scientific and public interest alive, even through waves of doubt. Skeptics argue that natural phenomena such as wave interference or human-induced ripples could explain many sightings, and some certainly do. But these explanations cannot fully account for every consistent detail reported by experienced observers. The nuances in movement, shape, and timing require more complex considerations. Over the years, the steady stream of diverse eyewitness accounts has shaped public expectation and scientific inquiry alike. They provide an emotional and observational anchor for the legend, inviting deeper exploration rather than outright dismissal. These testimonies remind us that some mysteries persist not because of a lack of observation, but because they defy easy understanding, lying in the space where belief and evidence intersect. With so many compelling eyewitness accounts laying the groundwork, the search for clearer answers naturally turned to advances in scientific technology and methodology. Advances in scientific search. Decades of fascination with Loch Ness steadily pushed science to develop new tools that could pierce the loch's dark, murky depths. Early sonar scans revealed hints of something unusual, but limited technology often left findings inconclusive or shrouded in dust and noise. As technology progressed, researchers began to employ a growing arsenal of equipment: high-resolution sonar arrays capable of filtering background noise, underwater drones with improved cameras, and sensors able to navigate the challenging underwater terrain. Environmental DNA sampling, or eDNA, emerged as a revolutionary technique in this evolving quest. By collecting and analyzing water samples, Scientists could detect traces of genetic material shed by organisms without ever seeing them directly. Applied to Loch Ness in 2018, eDNA analyses revealed a surprising abundance of aquatic life, including an unusually high concentration of European eel DNA. This finding sparked new theories that some sightings might be explained by exceptionally large or unusual eel species, a possibility previously underestimated. Yet, while eDNA provided fresh clues, it also deepened the mystery. Many samples contained DNA sequences unlike any documented species, hinting at the presence of unknown life forms. The technique opened a new door for cryptobiology, a nascent field dedicated to studying creatures known from folklore or unverified sightings using rigorous scientific methods. It shifted the conversation from legend toward investigative biology, blending curiosity with caution. Alongside eDNA, artificial intelligence began to play a transformative role in exploring Loch Ness. AI-assisted sonar systems could now filter out background interference, instantly distinguishing subtle movements from underwater currents or debris. These smart systems tracked patterns in real time and identified anomalies that would have gone unnoticed by human operators alone. They offered an unprecedented level of precision, able to highlight even the most fleeting signs of life below the surface. Thermal imaging also became an essential piece of the toolkit, especially at early morning hours when surface temps dropped and heat signatures just stood out, really sharply. The cold, deep Scottish waters usually mask thermal fluctuations, so trying to spot a warm-blooded creature by infrared meant you needed super-sensitive, cutting-edge tech. Together, thermal cameras and AI-powered sonar sort of made a complementary duo, one showing presence through heat, the other tracing motion and form down there in the depths.
Scotland's Loch Ness, a centuries-old mystery, grows ever deeper. Might be the Loch Ness Monster. These lightweight drones being tested for the first time.
There she goes.
Underwater drones with high-definition cameras and directional sensors added a more physical angle to all of this. They let operators track promising sonar contacts, collecting visual evidence that could help settle the talk about what the detected objects actually were. Even with nasty visibility conditions caused by peat-rich waters, drones sometimes managed to catch fuzzy outlines or movements that didn't match known fish or debris, so it hinted at an unknown tenant inside the loch. This fresh wave of technology sorta helped researchers reduce typical mistaken identity issues, like the usual confusion. By cross-referencing sonar data with visual records, thermal imagery, and environmental DNA, scientists could tease apart everyday quirks from weird anomalies that actually need deeper inquiry. That combined strategy bumped up the credibility level because every sighting or detection had to be backed up by more than one independent form of evidence, not just one shaky signal. And as different fields kept converging, the quest for Loch Ness's secret became more intricate, sort of interdisciplinary in a quiet way. It was no longer stuck with isolated sonar blips or only anecdotal accounts. Instead, the search leaned on AI, genetics, thermal dynamics, and robotics, all together in a coordinated push to expose whatever was hiding out there. It felt like a proof of human ingenuity, a high-tech vision tossed into ancient waters where myth and reality kind of meet, at least in the same frame. Then, as these innovations kept growing, the whole scene was set for a breakthrough that would poke at decades of both skepticism and hope. In the end, it suggested that sometimes the hardest-to-reach secrets really do demand the most extraordinary tools. The unexpected clarity brought by technology soon revealed more than just faint blips or genetic puzzles. It revealed a moment that stunned even the most seasoned experts. The 2025 Deep Scan Breakthrough. In the spring of 2025, equipped with next-generation AI-assisted sonar and thermal imaging, a dedicated research team embarked on an expedition that would redefine the Loch Ness mystery. Their mission was straightforward: catalog the loch's ecosystem with the most precise data ever collected. Yet on the fourth day, something remarkable occurred. At exactly 6:42 a.m., sonar systems detected a large, solid object nearly 30 feet long, moving steadily across the mid-trench section of the loch. This was no ordinary sonar blip. the object maintained a measured speed and depth, weaving gracefully just above the silted lake bed. Unlike transient echoes from schools of fish or floating debris that scattered or faded, this signal persisted for nearly 3 minutes, tracked simultaneously from multiple sonar arrays. Its movement suggested deliberate navigation, a sign that the object was more than an underwater apparition or random drift. Submersible drones quickly launched to visually investigate, venturing into the loch's fraught waters. Visibility was limited, yet one drone managed to capture fleeting silhouettes, showing elongated, smooth forms undulating rhythmically. Most compelling was a moment when a fin-like appendage shifted laterally, mimicking the controlled paddling of marine mammals. Absence of noise or bubbles discounted the possibility of mechanical devices, reinforcing the impression of a living, breathing creature. At the same time, thermal imaging revealed a steady heat signature emanating from the same location. Loch Ness waters are famously cold, so this warm patch was immediately striking. The signature was consistent and spread over an outline resembling a vertebrate, implying a warm-blooded organism rather than a cold-blooded reptile or inorganic object. This discovery challenged earlier notions that any large creature in the loch might be cold-blooded, as with prehistoric reptile theories. Environmental DNA samples collected during and right after the sighting were shipped to top laboratories across Europe. The results added to the enigma, and, well, it got stranger. Besides the expected species like salmon and eel, there were DNA fragments that just didn't line up with anything on record. So this whole genetic oddity pointed toward an unknown aquatic vertebrate. Maybe something endemic to the loch, a kind of animal never formally catalogued by science. Even so, no real taxonomic classification has been produced yet, at least not officially. Still, the gathered clues, steady sonar readings, drone footage from above, a subtle thermal warmth, and that distinct DNA signature, they all stack up in a way that feels hard to dismiss. Researchers involved, mostly in quiet tones, admitted how rare this is, and how this revelation could alter biological understanding of Loch Ness and beyond. This development also shifted the long-running debate, because now the scientific world has to juggle skepticism against evidence that is tangible, multi-layered, and not just one thing. What used to be pushed aside as legend or a misidentification now needs proper academic attention, and it's already fueling renewed interest in cryptobiology, as well as the study of hard-to-see species. At this point, the line between myth and reality kind of smudges with every new data point that gets collected. The 2025 discovery wasn't only about confirming a creature's existence either. It also opened the door to a bigger question about biodiversity and the boundaries of scientific knowledge itself. Hidden deep in one of the world's most well-known freshwater bodies, there seems to be an organism that challenges assumptions and invites a new kind of exploration.
There's one big problem for those who believe a prehistoric monster lives in Loch Ness. Extinct prehistoric creatures just don't pop up unexpectedly, or so the experts thought.
This moment echoed far beyond Loch Ness, inspiring scientists, scholars, and dreamers alike to imagine a world where mysteries still swim just beneath the surface, waiting for the right eyes and machines to find them. Global impact and cryptobiology's rise. The 2025 Loch Ness discovery did more than revive curiosity. It changed how the world viewed legends, cryptids, and the unexplored corners of nature. Creatures once dismissed as myths were suddenly being discussed in universities, research labs, and government offices. For the first time, cryptobiology began moving from the fringe into serious scientific conversation. Across the globe, academic institutions started launching programs focused on unexplained biological phenomena. These new studies blended biology, ecology, anthropology, genetics, and environmental DNA testing. Instead of mocking old sightings or folklore, researchers began treating them as clues, possible starting points for discovering hidden biodiversity. Technology companies, sort of quickly, followed along. Money flowed into underwater drones, ultra-sensitive sonar systems, AI-powered tracking tools, and a cluster of advanced environmental sensors. And these systems really weren't meant for Loch Ness in particular, not alone anyway. Scientists started seeing fresh opportunities across other remote water places, deep ocean trenches, flooded caves, far-off waterways, even remote lakes where odd reports had been told for generations. Governments began funding expeditions, too, into areas once viewed as too mythical to properly look at. From Siberian lakes to South American sinkholes, teams showed up with drones, sonar, and DNA samplers, and they searched for answers. At the same time, researchers worked more closely with indigenous communities, and it was more than just courtesy. They realized that oral histories can hold ecological knowledge that modern science often skips over or never quite picks up. This shift changed the whole relationship between myth and evidence. Legends weren't treated only as tales to argue against. Instead, they became cultural records, like a map of meaning that guided researchers toward mysteries worth careful study, and not just quick dismissal. The influence didn't stop with science. Media, tourism, and education leaned into Loch Ness as a symbol of possibility. Scotland ended up with more visitors, while festivals and public programs turned Nessie into a kind of cultural icon, but also kept it as a scientific puzzle that people actually wanted to understand. Loch Ness has long been a place of mystery, but 2026's AI-powered discoveries transformed legend into groundbreaking science. What was once dismissed as a fairy tale now challenges our understanding of nature itself. If this story amazed you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible journeys into the world's strangest mysteries. And before you go, watch the next video appearing on your screen, because the next mystery may be even harder to explain.